Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Happy PharmD podcast. I'm Alex Barker, the founder, and I'm really excited for mostly selfish reasons for this podcast. You know that anytime I'm coming on the show, it's about business because businesses are how we create jobs for pharmacists. And we normally have just Alex and myself talking about business or perhaps another founder. But this time, I got something special for you folks today. We have a multi-paneled podcast because Alex told me about this little side gig that he has started up and I'm insanely interested in. So the company's name is pharmaciststudy.com, and we'll put a link in the show notes so you can click it and check it out. And this is technically an international company. It is a Japanese startup, and what they do is they provide continuing education to pharmacy students and pharmacists, and they take basically anything that's in other languages, mainly in English, and help provide that education to pharmacists in Japan. The reason why I want to know more is because I wouldn't call myself a certified Japanophile, but I certainly have enjoyed the Japanese culture for the last probably 10 years of my life since I got into reading comics, manga, and anime and Japanese culture, and anything from Japan is something that I typically enjoy immensely. So when I learned that Alex, his wife, I believe, is Japanese, and then I learned that he speaks Japanese, I immediately began to admire him more. And so today, I'm just very, very thrilled to be having this discussion. So crew, thanks for joining me today. We'll start off with Alex Evans, of course. So tell us about how you even got involved in something like this. How did this all start?
So I've actually been reading Shinpei's articles for quite some time. He writes articles on a pharmacist trade magazine in Japan called Pharma Tribune. So I kept seeing his name pop up, and finally found his email and sent him a quick email, kind of like when we first met. It was like, hey, by the way, like your articles. If you're interested in doing something later, let me know. And maybe we could write some articles or do some podcasts, something like that.
Did you write it in Japanese?
I did not know. I mean, because he's licensed in Canada, he speaks English, which he does speak.
Okay.
So I'd seen, a lot of his articles. His articles are focused on differences between pharmacy in Canada and Japan and what it's like to work as a pharmacist in Canada and things of that nature. So yeah, I'd emailed him about that, and we'd exchanged a few emails about whether it's articles, podcasts, anything like that. And then I got an email from him saying he's wanting to start this group to help pharmacists and pharmacy students expand their clinical knowledge and learn more pharmacy specific English. And it's like, I thought it was a great opportunity because I think, first of all, as a business, it's a great opportunity because there's a lot of demand. And then, of course, for me, exposure to the language and constantly hearing, especially pharmacy specific Japanese. So obviously for that reason, I was very interested. I figured, we should go for it and see what happens. And we've had 2 sessions so far that have gone really well, and seems like a lot of demand for it.
It's awesome. I love stories like this, and it goes to show you that sometimes your business idea is just literally one email away. So the other 2 people that we have on this podcast are the founder, Shinpei, and also Megumi, who is with us as well. And she is a student helping out this company as well. We'll get to both of them and a little more of their stories. So Shinpei, tell us a little bit about your pharmacist journey to where you are right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me, Alex, this time. So I'm Shinpei. Actually, I went to pharmacy school in Japan first. Then I graduated. I started as a pharmacist in the hospital. Then I noticed that like in Japan, our practice is far behind, and I've decided to go to Canada because one of my friends had became pharmacist in Canada, so I just decided to go. Then after I got the license in Canada, so I needed to go back to Japan. So I noticed that there's no opportunities for pharmacists who has like different careers, like the pharmacist who has career in different countries. So I thought we need to create some place for those pharmacists.
Hmm. Are you practicing pharmacy right now in Japan?
Yes, I work in community pharmacy.
Okay. I think we should all take a moment to thank Shinpei for joining us. It's very early in the morning here for us, but it's very late at night in Japan for him. So thank you for that. Thank you for joining. So you went to pharmacy school, got your PharmD in Canada. If you could summarize, what would you say the greatest difference is between pharmacy practice in Japan versus in Canada?
Probably the still like pharmacists in Japan are still focused on like dispensing or still focusing on medication themselves. But in Canada, so they shifted to like people, like more pharmacology, pharmacotherapy, like therapeutics. So like also pharmacists have a lot of authorities. So we like Canadian pharmacists can do what they think these are things are right. But yeah, Japanese cannot do that. So
So how long did it take you to come up with this idea? So give us a timeline. When did you move back to Japan, and what was like the formation of this idea like?
I moved back to Japan almost a year ago. Yeah, but before I started my career in Canada, so I decided to come back to Japan. But I don't know. I had no idea what to start and what kind of project we should start. Like after I got licensed in Canada and worked for like several months, then my visa was expired. Then there's no way to keep working in Canada. So
Did you have the idea to create this as soon as you came back to Japan? Or was it an aha moment where you realized, oh, this is something that I could pursue?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I said I came back to Japan a year ago and I started practicing Japan right after that. Then 3 months after, or 4 months after I started working in Japan, I noticed that, oh, this is not what I want to. And my English skill has been going down. And also I'm just dispensing. I didn't use any of my ideas or my pharmacy things. So this is a time I decided to, okay, I think we need some time, some place to do it.
Excellent. I think it's a brilliant idea, and it's one that honestly can be copied in multiple places. I have I would say an acquaintance business friend who lives in Tokyo right now, and he was a bodybuilder. Not the giant muscle roid looking guy, but just, a regular bodybuilder. And he moved to Japan, and he found that in Japan, there's not a lot of knowledge there about how to get into this, but there was interest. And so he built a website that shared some of the best information, in the world, but it was just in Japanese, and his website took off. The idea is really simple. If you speak another language, if you're interested in another culture, or if you're there, it's very easy to create a service, a business, or an idea, or a website even, where you can disseminate knowledge in the mother tongue, as it were. So you started this idea. Alex is on board with it. Megumi, how did you get roped into this as a side project while going to pharmacy school, which I would argue is not a great time to start or to be involved in a business because of how little time you have? So walk us through how Shigumi somehow roped you into this.
So I'm also a licensed pharmacist in Japan. I went to pharmacy school and I was a clinical pharmacist for 5 years. And when I first came here, I live in Florida now. And the reason was kind of similar. I wanted to learn more about pharmacy practice in America. And there is a quite difference, as Shinpei mentioned. So I wanted to learn more and I wanted to expand pharmacist practice, scope of practice in Japan. So as a student, I was writing a blog and I was sharing information in Japanese for Japanese pharmacists and pharmacy students. And so not many people are familiar with how to use English materials. We don't learn that much about drug information in pharmacy school in Japan. So I wanted to share information, and that's, I think, when I met Shinpei online.
Okay. So once again, online bringing you guys together.
Yeah. So he was a licensed pharmacists in 2 different countries. And I thought that was really unique, and it's nice to connect.
I think anyone listening would be able to deduce this, but just to clarify, in Japan, I assume that you need a master's or a bachelor's to practice pharmacy?
It actually changed when I finished. It was last year, we only need bachelor's, 4 years. And right after I graduated, it turned to 6 years program. We don't have undergraduate. We just start straight from high school and 6 years.
And at the end, you then have a doctorate?
No, I think it's considered master. I'm not sure.
I think it's considered master.
Okay. So you guys have created this idea. It's brand new. And the first thing I noticed about it is it's essentially what it looks like a membership website, correct? Is that the model?
Yeah, it's like a subscription model. Like, yeah, they pay every month.
Mm-hmm. Now, if I saw correctly, maybe it's been updated, but I remember asking Alex about this. I believe you guys are asking for 1,500 yen, correct?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So if you don't know, that translates to about $1.25, $1.50.
No, about $15.
I'm sorry?
About $15.
Oh, 15. Okay. I had the decimal places off. That's right. So that translates. So let me back up. So that translates to about $15 a month. So that's about the price of your Hulu or Netflix subscription. But in exchange, you're not getting time wasting opportunity. You're getting really high end pharmacy knowledge. So you guys create this. I'm looking at your website now. You have a website. You barely have any content. What looks like, you have 2 blog posts. Tell us about the reception. You said it's very popular. So if you don't mind, I would love to talk numbers. What's been your reception? How easy has it been to get members? How have you attract the attention of people? Because, you go to the website and there's not much there, but so I'm very curious who's willing to share.
I can start it. Yeah. So, yeah, as far as attracting customers and all, I think Shinpei has a lot of people who read his content on Pharma Tribune and his other websites and things of that nature about being licensed and working in Canada. So it's kind of well known in that area in Japan. So I know that he has not had any issue finding pharmacists and pharmacy students interested in learning English, whether it's to be licensed in an English speaking country or whether it's just for their own personal knowledge or because they live in an area where they might get English speaking customers. So I know that as far as attracting customers, that hasn't been a problem. And yeah, we've talked about the $15 a month. We've had two classes so far, and right now so we have kind of like 1 hour live sessions twice a month. And so right now the first group of folks are kind of the guinea pigs while we figure out what model works best to actually teach them. So we wanted to make it accessible to pharmacists and pharmacy students, even in the interim while we're kind of figuring out what works best, and then get our formula down and either expand that with a larger group. So we started with about 10 people, and we could certainly add a lot more, but during the presentations, we do some discussions and things where if you had like 100 people on a live broadcast, there's really no way to do a group discussion. So those are kind of the 2 big reasons I think for keeping the group small for right now, is figuring our formula out and then still allowing for some group discussion. And we're going to have a meeting to talk a little bit more about the business side, but I'm aware of one company because I told them I thought about working for them, but they are making a killing in Japan selling pharmacy English courses to drug industry. So all these enormous corporations, whether it's American, Pfizer, J&J, and Merck, or Japanese companies, Takeda, that have American branches, they all have the language of business, and the global language is English. And so even their Japanese scientists anybody is from science to marketing have to speak English to some extent to communicate with the rest of the company globally. So they are making a killing teaching these one-on-one pharmacy English classes. So we might actually consider getting into some of that where we target drug industry. And, I was thinking this is actually a good opportunity for an online format just because coronavirus has actually made the online format a lot more acceptable when previously a company might have just said no. We already have live sessions. Now they might actually be open to that. So it might be a chance to get in and do some online teaching. And even though Megumi and I are both in the US, we could still all get together and teach a class for industry representatives, for example. So,
yeah, that's where the money is, right?
It is.
so they have the money to spend. It's high stakes. They already have however many millions of dollars in a drug, and they can't afford for language barriers to tie up approvals. And it's not just the FDA. They have to get approval for the European Medicine Agency, and PMDA is Japan's regulatory agency, and all of those processes are different, and they're going to require coordination among team members in multiple countries in order to make that happen. And they're willing to pay money for people who can help with the language barrier.
Yes. So a couple of key lessons here I want to point out. One is you've picked a business idea that is essential. And I feel like so many people come up with great ideas, but no one really wants it. So just backing up, everyone needs continuing education. It's required by law. So if you can be someone who provides great continuing education, you're providing a service that is essential. The second lesson here is follow the money. So you have identified correctly that the real opportunity here is in pharma, because that's where a lot of money is spent on education. And if you can be the leading trusted voice of this subject, that's a great way to make future potential partnerships. So my hope is that we can do like a yearly thing with you guys, or at least yearly, to see what happens, a year from now, because all you guys are working, full-time or on something else. As someone who has built up multiple side hustles, I know how difficult it is to, grow to that next stage. So if you could, a year from now, Shinpei, where do you see this going, or where would you love to see this be in a year?
In a year, we'd like to more like different courses for the different audiences. So our courses just now currently focus on reading and doing presentations, but we would like to cover more conversation, like pharmacy conversation in like community pharmacy. So I think there are more, of course, the like pharmaceutical company would be a great target, but also we can cover the people who are working in like huge drug store, because drug store in Japan has a lot of money as well. So I think these are the great targets. So we can target in a year.
I like it. Well, I'm going to be excited to see where you guys go from here. As you guys are, you're in this startup phase. Have you found that timing and meeting together has been difficult based on like time zones, or have you guys figured out, positions and titles and all of that, or is this still you're trying to navigate those waters?
The timing can be challenging. Yeah, I mean, you kind of notice like sometimes in our meetings, I'm thinking it's 10, 15, 10:30 at night in Japan, and some of them have to be getting tired. So yeah, I think the timing is tricky. For those of you who are caught up in titles in general, it's kind of a side note, but it's a complete waste of time. I think the big breakthrough in your career in general comes when you don't care about whether your title is director, vice president, manager, pharmacist, whatever it is. Be honest with you, I don't even know what my official job title is at work. I have to look it up. I think it's pharmacist 2 or something. But anyway, yeah, I think titles in general is a pretty low priority. We'll make the business work and we'll roll with it.
It's a good strategy to have in the startup phase, right? You don't want to get too hung up on those things. Eventually it'll become important to define who does what and when, right? But when you're in the startup phase, practically you're doing everything from building the website to creating the service. One other point I wanted to make here, Shinpei, what drove you to publish? Because I feel like that's kind of the secret sauce of your success so far, is building your authority on the subject. I can relate to that. I had wrote articles for years on Pharmacy Times, mainly about career stuff, career subjects. And when people, reach out to me, they often say, "Oh, I read your article on Pharmacy Times years ago. That's how I was first introduced to you." What led you to, I suppose, build up your brand so many years ago?
I think the biggest thing is that licensing Japan, both in Japan and Canada. So that is a huge branding. And also after I got the license in Canada, I started a Twitter, the social SNS. So I tweeted a lot. What is the difference between Canada and Japan, and what can be introduced, or what can be changed in Japanese practice? And many people agreed. And then I have a lot of, currently I have 2,000 followers. So it's a relatively high, I think high, it's that, therefore right now it's really easy to do something if I start meeting, or if I start some workshop. So many people will be interested and they will join. So actually before we start this 2 workshop, so I provided 2 or 3 different trial workshop. So yeah, of course there are so many mistakes and which didn't go well, but I've got used to it. So I think these things are makes me little more attractive. To
how many people joined those first webinars?
Those webinars, around 20 to 30. Yeah. I know Megumi had also joined one of the webinars. So it was very easy to recruit members.
Right after that webinar, did you recruit them into your membership model, or was it just, this is what I'm doing, give me your feedback?
We waited for a month or 2 months. Then we discussed what kind of model would be the best, because last time I think Megumi provided a lecture and we had a group discussion, but I thought it would be difficult to keep providing presentations. So then I changed the model a little. So now our workshop consists of 2 parts. One presentation presented by participants, and additional presentation by our board members like us. So then it is now easier than providing 1 hour presentations. So we learned something from the webinars.
Good. Well, I'm excited to see what happens a year from now. So mark our calendars. Today's the end of April as this recording. We're going to need to do another one in a year and see where you guys are at. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Happy PharmD podcast. And if you want to check out Peace Pharmacist Study, you can check out the link and that'll take you right to their website, and use Google Translate to translate it into English so you can get, kind of just an idea of what they've created. A lot of lessons in this episode, and it goes to show that really you just need an idea. You don't even need a lot of people. It's not like they had 100 people in their audience, wanting to see what they were doing and buying. It just takes a small step, and I'm very excited to see where this goes in a year.